Have you ever pondered the delicate balance between the need for law enforcement to maintain order and the rights of citizens to be free from excessive use of force? Today we're diving deep into the world of Taser case law, starting with the Ninth Circuit Court. In the Ninth Circuit, a landmark case, Bryan v. McPherson, set a precedent. The court ruled that using a taser against an unarmed, non-threatening individual constituted excessive force. The court reasoned that the severity of the crime at issue, the immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others, and whether the suspect is actively resisting arrest or attempting to escape, are all factors to consider. Moving to the Fourth Circuit, we find Armstrong v. Pinehurst. Here, the court decided that using a taser on a mentally ill person who is not a threat is also excessive force. This case emphasized the need for law enforcement officers to carefully consider the situation before resorting to a taser. Over in the Eighth Circuit, the court in Du Bois v. Taser International had to make a similar decision. They ruled that using a taser on a suspect already in handcuffs and not resisting is excessive. The court stated that officers must balance the amount of force used with the need for that force. In the 11th Circuit, the case of Fils v. City of Aventura set a precedent that tasers should not be used on non-violent misdemeanants who do not pose a threat and are not fleeing or resisting arrest. The court noted that using a taser in such circumstances can be considered excessive and unreasonable. So what are the main points to take away from these cases? Firstly, the use of a taser must be objectively reasonable. What does this mean? It means that the use of force must match the level of threat presented by the situation. An officer must consider the severity of the crime, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat, and whether they are resisting arrest or attempting to escape. Secondly, the courts have repeatedly emphasized that using a taser on a non-threatening, non-resistant individual is generally considered excessive force. This applies whether the individual is mentally ill, already in handcuffs, or a nonviolent misdemeanant. Lastly, the courts will scrutinize each use of a taser to ensure it meets the standard of being objectively reasonable. Every time an officer pulls the trigger on a taser, they must be prepared for their actions to be judged against this standard. In conclusion, the use of tasers in law enforcement is a tool that needs to be wielded with a keen sense of judgment and a deep understanding of the law. It's not just about maintaining order. It's about upholding the rights of individuals and ensuring that the force used is nothing more than necessary. Remember, the law and the courts are watching. Finally, we must not forget Graham v. Connor, the umbrella case law covering all use of force in the United States. This landmark case, decided by the Supreme Court in 1989, established the objective reasonableness standard, which applies to all claims of excessive force, including those involving the use of tasers. In essence, Graham v. Connor holds that the reasonableness of a particular use of force must be judged from the perspective of a reasonable officer on the scene, and its calculus must embody an allowance for the fact that police officers are often forced to make split-second decisions about the amount of force necessary in a particular situation. Now, why is this case so important for our discussion on Taser case law? It's because Graham v. Connor sets the precedent for all use of force cases, not just those involving tasers. It's like the North Star, guiding all other cases and serving as the standard against which all other cases are measured. When a court is examining whether the use of a taser was objectively reasonable, it is using the standard set by Graham v. Connor. So remember, Graham v. Connor is the guiding light in all use of force cases. It's the standard, the rule book that every law enforcement officer must keep in mind when making that crucial decision to use force, be it with a taser or any other tool at their disposal. It's not just about whether the force used was necessary in that moment, but whether a reasonable officer in the same situation would have deemed it necessary. And This, dear viewers, is the heart of Taser case law. Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, and share.